In the year 2347, humanity had come a long way from its humble beginnings on Earth. After centuries of struggle, survival, and innovation, humans had spread their wings across the stars, claiming new worlds and forging alliances with alien species. But not everyone was happy about humanity's rise. Among the many factions in the galaxy, some saw humans as a threat, others as an opportunity, and a few simply didn't care. What no one could deny, however, was that humanity had built something extraordinary, a warship so powerful it made even the most advanced alien fleets nervous. The ship was called the Odyssey, and it wasn't just any vessel. It was the brainchild of Daniel Cross, a quiet but brilliant engineer who had spent years perfecting its design. The Odyssey was massive, sleek, and brimming with technology far ahead of its time. Its hull could repair itself after taking damage, its weapons were capable of tearing through enemy ships like paper, and at its core was Iris, an artificial intelligence so advanced it sometimes felt more like a person than a machine. The Odyssey wasn't just a warship. It was a symbol of human ingenuity and determination. Commanding this marvel of engineering was Captain Laura Hayes, a seasoned officer known for her calm demeanor and sharp mind. Laura had earned her rank through years of hard work and dedication, and she took her responsibilities seriously. She knew that the Odyssey was more than just a tool, it was a responsibility. With great power came great expectations, and Laura was determined to ensure the ship served humanity well. One day, while patrolling near the edge of human-controlled space, the crew of the Odyssey encountered something strange. A mysterious, alien artifact was floating in the void, emitting faint signals that seemed almost like a call for help. Curious, Laura ordered the ship to investigate. Daniel led a team to retrieve the artifact, carefully bringing it aboard. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a chunk of metal, but closer inspection revealed intricate patterns etched into its surface. No one could decipher what it meant, but Iris began analyzing it immediately. What they didn't know was that retrieving the artifact would set off a chain reaction across the galaxy. News of the Odyssey's capabilities had already been spreading, thanks to rumors and leaked intel. Alien leaders whispered about the ship's unmatched power, and soon enough, fear began to take root. Some saw the Odyssey as a weapon that could tip the balance of power in humanity's favor. Others viewed it as a potential threat to galactic stability. Before long, the whispers turned into demands. Several alien races, including the Krylos and the Varnik, called for the immediate decommissioning of the Odyssey. They argued that such a powerful ship violated treaties meant to prevent any one species from dominating the galaxy. Back on Earth, politicians scrambled to respond. Humanity had worked hard to earn its place among the stars, and now it seemed like all that progress might be undone by fear and suspicion. Diplomat Nathan Brooks was sent to negotiate with the Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced species tasked with maintaining peace among the stars. Nathan was a skilled negotiator, but even he found himself struggling against the tide of distrust. The Council listened to his arguments, but their decision was swift and unanimous. The Odyssey was declared illegal. Humanity had 30 days to surrender or destroy the ship or face the consequences. Aboard the Odyssey, tensions ran high. The crew debated their options, unsure of what to do next. Some believed they should comply with the Council's demands to avoid war. Others argued that giving up the ship would be a betrayal of everything humanity had fought for. Laura listened to both sides, weighing the risks and rewards. She knew that surrendering the Odyssey would weaken humanity's position in the galaxy, but defying the Council could lead to conflict with forces far beyond their control. As if things weren't complicated enough, Laura received word that her younger brother, Ethan Hayes, was stationed on a nearby colony planet. The colony was vulnerable, surrounded by hostile alien forces emboldened by the Council's stance. If the Odyssey was destroyed or surrendered, there would be nothing to stop those forces from attacking. Laura couldn't ignore the danger her brother was in, but she also couldn't abandon her duty to the ship and its crew. Seeking advice, Daniel reached out to an old friend named Rachel Morgan. Rachel was a xenobiologist who had spent years living among the Zeltrax, a reclusive race known for their neutrality. Though the Zeltrax rarely involved themselves in galactic politics, Rachel believed they might be willing to help. After some persuasion, she managed to arrange a meeting between Laura and Kale, the leader of the Zeltrax. Kale was cautious, but intrigued by the situation. He agreed to provide limited support, seeing potential in using the Odyssey to counterbalance the Council's influence. Despite this small victory, the crew of the Odyssey knew they were walking a dangerous path. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. For now, the Odyssey remained operational, its systems humming with untapped potential. But the clock was ticking, and the stakes were higher than ever. Whatever choice Laura and her crew made, it would shape the future of humanity and perhaps the entire galaxy for generations to come. The Odyssey wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a test, a challenge, and a beacon of hope all rolled into one. And as the crew prepared for whatever lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never forget the name of the most overpowered human warship ever built. End of Part 1. The declaration from the Galactic Council sent shockwaves through humanity. The news spread quickly, reaching every corner of Earth and its colonies. People were divided. Some believed surrendering the Odyssey was the only way to avoid war, while others saw it as a betrayal of everything humanity had worked for. Back on Earth, politicians scrambled to find a solution. Diplomat Nathan Brooks was at the center of it all. He had been sent to negotiate with the Council, but even his sharp mind and calm demeanor couldn't sway their decision. The Council's message was clear. The Odyssey had to be destroyed or surrendered within 30 days, or humanity would face the consequences. Nathan tried to reason with the Council members, explaining that the Odyssey was not a weapon of aggression, but a symbol of human progress. He argued that disarming the ship would leave humanity vulnerable to attacks from hostile alien factions, but the Council wasn't listening. They claimed the ship's power upset the balance of the galaxy and insisted it posed a threat to peace. Nathan knew they weren't entirely wrong. The Odyssey was unmatched in its capabilities, and its existence had already sparked fear among several alien races. Still, he couldn't help but feel the Council's demands were more about control than safety. Meanwhile, aboard the Odyssey, the crew wrestled with their own fears and doubts. Laura Hayes called a meeting in the ship's command center to discuss their options. She stood in front of her team, her expression calm but serious. Daniel Cross, the ship's lead engineer, was the first to speak. He suggested they comply with the Council's demands, arguing that defying them would lead to war. Others disagreed, pointing out that surrendering the Odyssey would weaken humanity's position in the galaxy. Laura listened carefully, weighing each argument. She understood both sides, but couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease in her chest. Complicating matters further was the situation with Ethan Hayes, Laura's younger brother. Ethan was stationed on a colony planet near the edge of human-controlled space, an area now threatened by hostile alien forces emboldened by the Council's stance. If the Odyssey was destroyed or surrendered, there would be nothing to stop those forces from attacking the colony. Laura felt torn between her duty to the ship and her responsibility to protect her family. She knew she couldn't abandon Ethan, but she also couldn't let fear dictate her decisions. Seeking guidance, Daniel reached out to an old friend named Rachel Morgan. Rachel was a xenobiologist who had spent years living among the Zeltrax, a reclusive race known for their neutrality. Though the Zeltrax rarely involved themselves in galactic politics, Rachel believed they might be willing to help. After some persuasion, she arranged a meeting between Laura and Kale, the leader of the Zeltrax. Kale was cautious but intrigued by the situation. He listened carefully as Laura explained the Council's demands and the crew's dilemma. Kale didn't offer immediate support but asked for time to consider. He reminded Laura that the Zeltrax valued neutrality above all else and warned her that any alliance with his people would come with conditions. Laura understood and thanked him for considering their request. As the meeting ended, Kyle promised to send a response within a few days. For now, the crew of the Odyssey had to wait. Back on Earth, Nathan continued his efforts to sway the Council. He dug deeper into their reasons for targeting the Odyssey and uncovered unsettling truths. The Council wasn't acting out of concern for galactic peace. They were using the ship as an excuse to weaken humanity. Several Council members had ties to alien factions hostile to humans, and they saw the Odyssey's destruction as an opportunity. to gain the upper hand. Nathan knew this information could change everything if he could prove it, but gathering evidence wouldn't be easy. As tensions mounted, the crew of the Odyssey prepared for the worst. They ran simulations, tested weapon systems, and reviewed every possible scenario. Iris, the ship's AI, analyzed data non-stop, searching for weaknesses in potential enemy fleets. Despite the uncertainty, the crew remained united. Laura's leadership-inspired loyalty and Daniel's expertise kept the ship running smoothly. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, the Odyssey felt like a fortress, a place where humanity's brightest minds could stand together against the galaxy's challenges. Days passed, and Kale finally responded. He agreed to provide limited support, offering intelligence on enemy movements and access to Zeltrax technology. In return, he demanded that the Odyssey be used only as a defensive tool, never as a weapon of aggression. Laura accepted his terms, knowing it was the best deal they could hope for. With the Zeltrax's help, the crew began preparing for whatever lay ahead. Despite these small victories, the situation remained dire. The Council's deadline loomed closer, and the crew knew they couldn't rely on diplomacy alone. Laura decided it was time to take action. She ordered the Odyssey to move closer to the colony where Ethan was stationed, hoping to protect it from potential attacks. At the same time, she tasked Daniel and Rachel with studying the mysterious alien artifact, retrieved earlier. They hoped it might hold answers, or at least give them an advantage. As the days ticked by, the crew worked tirelessly, their determination unwavering. Laura found herself reflecting on the weight of her responsibilities. She had always believed in the Odyssey's mission, but now she realized just how much rested on her shoulders. The ship wasn't just a machine. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. Whatever happened next, Laura knew one thing for certain: the Odyssey would not go down without a fight. End of Part 2. The crew of the Odyssey worked tirelessly, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. The ship's systems hummed with energy as Iris monitored every movement in nearby space. Laura Hayes stood on the command deck, her eyes fixed on the screens, displaying enemy fleets converging toward their location. The Galactic Council had made its stance clear, and now multiple alien races were closing in, determined to enforce the ship's destruction or surrender. Despite the odds, Laura refused to back down. She knew the Odyssey represented more than just a warship. It was humanity's defiance against oppression. Daniel Cross and Rachel Morgan spent long hours studying the mysterious alien artifact retrieved earlier. The object continued to emit faint signals, but its purpose remained a mystery. Daniel suspected it held secrets that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy, but unlocking those secrets required time they didn't have. As they worked, tension grew aboard the ship. The crew knew betrayal could come from anywhere, even within their ranks, and trust became a fragile thing. That fear proved justified when disaster struck. A spy embedded among the crew leaked critical information about the Odyssey's systems to the Council. The betrayal wasn't discovered until it was too late. Enemy fleets, armed with newfound knowledge of the ship's vulnerabilities, surrounded the Odyssey in a remote nebula. The crew scrambled to respond, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Laura ordered the activation of the ship's cloaking device, buying them precious time to devise a plan. For now, the Odyssey disappeared from enemy sensors, hidden amidst the swirling clouds of gas and dust. Laura called an emergency meeting in the command center. Her voice was calm but firm as she addressed the crew. "We've been betrayed," she said, her words cutting through the tension like a blade. "Someone gave our enemies access to our systems. We don't know who it is yet, but we can't let this stop us." She turned to Daniel and Rachel, asking for updates on the artifact. If the Odyssey was going to survive, they needed answers. And fast. Rachel stepped forward, holding a tablet displaying strange patterns extracted from the artifact. "We've found something," she said, her tone cautious. "These patterns seem to be blueprints for a weapon, a very dangerous one." Daniel nodded, adding, "If these plans are real, this weapon could destabilize entire star systems. It's possible someone planted the artifact here to frame us, to make it look like we were planning to use it." Laura clenched her fists, her mind racing. The implications were staggering. If the Council believed humanity intended to wield such a weapon, it would justify their demands to destroy the Odyssey. But if the crew could expose the truth, they might turn the tide of public opinion in their favor. Laura knew what had to be done. "We need to broadcast this information," she said. "The galaxy needs to see the Council's lies for what they are." Nathan Brooks, still working diplomatically on Earth, uncovered evidence supporting the crew's suspicions. Through careful investigation, he discovered that the Council had orchestrated the entire incident. They had planted the artifact and leaked false intelligence to create a pretext for disarming humanity. Nathan knew this revelation could change everything, but getting the information to the Odyssey wouldn't be easy. He encrypted the files and sent them via a secure channel, hoping they would reach Laura in time. Back aboard the Odyssey, the crew prepared for their next move. Breaking through the blockade surrounding them would require precision and courage. Laura devised a daring plan. Using the ship's quantum weapons sparingly, they would create chaos among the encircling fleets, exploiting weaknesses identified by Iris. At the same time, Ethan Hayes volunteered to lead a small team in Stolen fighters to deliver the artifact's data directly to the Galactic Council chambers. His mission was risky, but it offered the best chance of exposing the conspiracy firsthand. As the plan unfolded, the Odyssey emerged from its cloak, unleashing a series of calculated strikes against the enemy fleets. Iris guided the crew, predicting enemy movements and identifying weak points. The battle raged fiercely, testing the limits of the ship and its crew. Lasers flashed across the void, and explosions lit up the darkness as the Odyssey fought to hold its ground. Laura remained steady, her leadership keeping the crew focused despite the chaos around them. Meanwhile, Ethan and his team launched their fighters, slipping past enemy lines under cover of the Odyssey's attacks. They flew into the heart of the blockade, dodging fire and weaving through debris. Ethan felt the weight of his mission with every passing second. He carried not only the data that could save the Odyssey, but also the hopes of his sister and the entire crew. As they approached the Council chambers, resistance grew fiercer. Alien ships swarmed around them, forcing Ethan to rely on quick reflexes and sheer determination. Back on the Odyssey, Laura and her crew faced moments of doubt. The enemy fleets were relentless, and the ship sustained heavy damage despite Iris's efforts to keep it operational. Daniel worked furiously in engineering, patching breaches and rerouting power to critical systems. Rachel stayed by his side, offering support and encouragement. Even as the situation grew dire, the crew remained united, drawing strength from their shared purpose. Ethan's team finally reached the Council chambers, fighting their way through layers of defense. Just as they were about to transmit the incriminating files, enemy forces closed in. Ethan knew they wouldn't make it out alive, but he refused to give up. With seconds to spare, he activated the transmission, sending the truth to every corner of the galaxy. The files exposed the Council's deceit, revealing their role in planting the artifact and framing humanity. As the transmission ended, Ethan's fighter was hit and his team was captured. Aboard the Odyssey, the crew watched as the broadcast spread like wildfire. Public opinion began to shift, with alien populations questioning the Council's motives. The tide of the battle started to turn as well. Encouraged by the revelation, some alien ships withdrew from the fight, unwilling to support the Council's lies. Laura seized the opportunity, ordering a final push to break through the remaining blockade. The Odyssey unleashed its full power, obliterating key enemy vessels and clearing a path to safety. Though battered and bruised, the Odyssey escaped destruction. Its hull was scarred, and its systems were strained to the limit, but it remained operational thanks to Iris's quick thinking and Daniel's tireless efforts. Laura stood on the command deck, watching as the enemy fleets retreated. She felt a mix of relief and sorrow, knowing the cost of their victory. Ethan's sacrifice weighed heavily on her heart, but she took solace in the fact that his bravery had saved them all. As the Odyssey limped away from the battlefield, the galaxy began to change. The Council's authority crumbled under the weight of scandal and dissent. Alien races that had once feared humanity now saw them as victims of manipulation. The crew of the Odyssey had proven that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage and unity could prevail. But Laura knew their fight wasn't over. New challenges awaited, and the Odyssey would need to be ready for whatever came next. End of Part 3. The aftermath of the battle left the crew of the Odyssey battered but alive. The ship's systems were strained to their limits, its hull scarred from countless impacts, and its weapons depleted after hours of relentless fighting. Yet the Odyssey had survived, a testament to the ingenuity of Daniel Cross and the determination of Captain Laura Hayes. Despite the damage, the crew worked tirelessly to keep the ship operational, knowing that their fight was far from over. The broadcast exposing the Galactic Council's lies had shifted public opinion, but it hadn't ended the threat entirely. Enemy fleets still lingered nearby, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Laura stood on the command deck, her eyes scanning the screens displaying enemy movements. The blockade surrounding them was weakening, but it wasn't gone yet. She knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. The nebula that had shielded them earlier was dissipating, leaving the Odyssey exposed. Time was running out, and Laura needed a plan to break free. She called her senior officers together, her voice steady despite the exhaustion etched into her face. "We've come too far to give up now," she said. "If we're going to survive, we need to break through that blockade." Daniel Cross nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. He suggested using the ship's quantum weapons sparingly to create chaos among the enemy fleets. By targeting key vessels, they could exploit weaknesses in the blockade and carve a path to freedom. Rachel Morgan added that Iris, the ship's AI, could predict enemy movements and identify vulnerabilities. Together, they devised a strategy that relied on precision and timing. Every shot would count, and every decision could mean the difference between survival and destruction. As preparations began, Ethan Hayes' team continued their perilous mission. Captured by enemy forces after transmitting the incriminating files, Ethan and his crew were held aboard a Council-aligned cruiser. The conditions were harsh, and the guards showed no mercy, but Ethan refused to lose hope. He knew his actions had sparked change across the galaxy, and he clung to the belief that his sister and the crew of the Odyssey would find a way to save him. For now, all he could do was wait. Back aboard the Odyssey, the tension was palpable. The crew moved with urgency, repairing damaged systems and preparing for the coming fight. Laura walked among them, offering words of encouragement and reminding them of what was at stake. She knew morale was critical. If the crew lost faith, the mission would fail before it even began. Laura drew strength from their resilience, just as they drew strength from her leadership. Together they formed an unbreakable bond, united by a shared purpose. When the time came, the Odyssey emerged from the nebula, its engines roaring to life. The enemy fleets immediately turned their attention to the ship, launching a barrage of attacks. Laura remained calm, her hands gripping the command console as she directed the crew. Iris provided real-time updates, guiding the ship through the chaos with pinpoint accuracy. The Odyssey unleashed its quantum weapons, targeting key enemy vessels and creating gaps in the blockade. Explosions lit up the void as enemy ships were torn apart, their debris scattering across space. The battle raged fiercely, testing the limits of the Odyssey and its crew. Lasers flashed, missiles streaked through the darkness, and the ship shuddered under the impact of enemy fire. Laura ordered evasive maneuvers, weaving the Odyssey through the battlefield with skill and precision. Daniel worked furiously in engineering, rerouting power to critical systems and patching breaches in the hull. Rachel stayed by his side, helping wherever she could. The crew operated like a well-oiled machine, each member playing their part, in the desperate struggle for survival. Despite their efforts, the Odyssey sustained heavy damage. Alarms blared as systems failed and smoke filled the corridors. Laura refused to give up, urging the crew to hold on just a little longer. She knew they were close to breaking through the blockade. With one final push, the Odyssey unleashed a devastating volley of quantum blasts, obliterating the remaining enemy ships in its path. The blockade shattered, leaving a clear route to freedom. As the Odyssey escaped into open space, the crew erupted into cheers. They had done the impossible, breaking through a seemingly insurmountable obstacle. Laura allowed herself a moment of relief, but she knew the victory was only temporary. Ethan was still captured, and the Council's forces would regroup soon. The crew had bought themselves time, but they couldn't afford to rest. Meanwhile, Ethan's situation grew dire. His captors interrogated him relentlessly, demanding information about the Odyssey and its crew. Ethan refused to speak, enduring their attempts to break him with quiet defiance. He knew his silence was crucial. If he revealed anything, it could jeopardize the Odyssey's chances of rescuing him. Despite the pain and exhaustion, Ethan held on, drawing strength from memories of his sister and the crew who had risked everything to protect humanity. Back aboard the Odyssey, Laura and her team began planning their next move. They needed to rescue Ethan and expose the Council's corruption to the galaxy. Nathan Brooks, still working diplomatically on Earth, reached out with new information. He had uncovered evidence of secret agreements between the Council and hostile alien factions, proving their intent to weaken humanity. Nathan urged Laura to use this information wisely, knowing it could tip the scales in their favor. With renewed determination, the crew prepared for the challenges ahead. The Odyssey may have been battered, but its spirit remained unbroken. Laura knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she also knew they had something the Council lacked: unity. The crew of the Odyssey had proven time and again that they could overcome any obstacle when they worked together. As the ship sailed through the stars, Laura felt a glimmer of hope. The galaxy was watching, and the story of the Odyssey was far from over. End of Part 4. The Odyssey sailed through the stars, its battered hull a testament to the battles it had endured. The crew worked tirelessly to repair the damage, their hands moving with practiced precision as they patched breaches and rerouted power to critical systems. Laura Hayes stood on the command deck, her eyes scanning the screens displaying enemy movements. Though the immediate threat had passed, she knew the Council's forces would regroup soon. Time was of the essence, and every decision mattered. Ethan Hayes remained in enemy custody, his situation growing more dire with each passing hour. His captors continued their interrogations, demanding information about the Odyssey and its mission. Ethan endured their methods with quiet resilience, refusing to break. He clung to the hope that his sister and the crew would find a way to rescue him. For now, he focused on staying alive, knowing his silence was crucial to protecting the ship and its crew. Back aboard the Odyssey, Laura devised a plan to rescue Ethan. She knew it would be risky, but leaving him behind wasn't an option. With help from Iris, the ship's AI, she identified the location of the cruiser holding Ethan captive. The vessel was heavily guarded, but Laura believed they could use the Odyssey's remaining quantum weapons to create chaos and draw attention away from the rescue team. She tasked Daniel Cross and Rachel Morgan with leading the operation, knowing their expertise would be vital to its success. As preparations began, Nathan Brooks reached out with new information. He had uncovered evidence of secret agreements between the Council and hostile alien factions, proving their intent to weaken humanity. Nathan urged Laura to broadcast this information galaxy-wide, believing it could turn the tide of public opinion even further in their favor. Laura agreed, knowing transparency was key to exposing the Council's corruption. She ordered the data to be transmitted alongside footage of the battle and the Council's manipulations, ensuring the galaxy saw the truth. The rescue mission launched under the cover of darkness. The Odyssey unleashed a series of calculated strikes against nearby enemy fleets, creating confusion and drawing their attention. Meanwhile, Daniel and Rachel led a small team in stolen fighters, slipping past enemy lines and heading straight for the cruiser holding Ethan. Their journey was perilous, dodging fire and navigating debris as they closed in on their target. Once aboard the cruiser, the team moved quickly, disabling guards and freeing Ethan from his cell. Despite his weakened state, Ethan insisted on helping, knowing time was running out. Together, they fought their way back to the fighters, using every trick they knew to evade capture. As they reached the hangar bay, enemy reinforcements arrived, forcing them into a desperate firefight. Just as hope seemed lost, the Odyssey appeared, unleashing a barrage of quantum blasts to clear their path. The team escaped aboard the fighters, reuniting with the ship moments later. Back aboard the Odyssey, Ethan was greeted with cheers and relief. Laura embraced her brother tightly, her voice trembling with emotion. "We thought we'd lost you," she said, her words filled with gratitude. Ethan smiled weakly, his body aching from the ordeal, but his spirit unbroken. "You didn't," he replied. "Not while the Odyssey is still flying." With Ethan safe, the crew turned their attention to the political fallout. The broadcast of the Council's corruption spread like wildfire, sparking outrage across the galaxy. Alien populations questioned the Council's authority, and several member races withdrew their support. The coalition fractured under the weight of scandal and dissent, leaving the Council weaker than ever before. Some alien species extended tentative alliances to humanity, recognizing the courage and determination of the Odyssey's crew. On Earth, politicians scrambled to capitalize on the shifting landscape. Humanity's leaders celebrated the Odyssey as a symbol of resilience and unity, hailing Laura and her crew as heroes. Diplomat Nathan Brooks returned to Earth, his efforts praised as instrumental in exposing the Council's lies. Though tensions remained, humanity had earned a newfound respect among the stars. Aboard the Odyssey, the crew reflected on their journey. They had faced overwhelming odds, betrayal, and loss, yet they had emerged victorious. Laura stood on the command deck, watching as the stars streamed past the viewport. She felt a mix of pride and humility, knowing the crew's actions had changed the galaxy forever. Daniel joined her, his expression thoughtful. "We've come a long way," he said, his voice soft. "But I think the hardest part is still ahead." Laura nodded, understanding his meaning. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and new challenges awaited beyond the horizon. Rachel approached, carrying a tablet displaying strange readings detected by Iris. "There's something out there," she said, her tone cautious. "Something big." Laura studied the data, her mind racing with possibilities. Whatever it was, it lay far beyond explored space, lurking in the unknown reaches of the galaxy. She knew the Odyssey would need to be ready for whatever came next. As the ship sailed toward uncharted territory, the crew prepared for the future. They repaired the ship, upgraded its systems, and trained for the battles ahead. Laura reminded them of the importance of unity, urging them to remain vigilant and steadfast. The Odyssey was more than just a warship. It was a beacon of hope, a symbol of humanity's resilience and determination. And though the road ahead was uncertain, the crew faced it with courage and resolve. The galaxy had declared the Odyssey illegal, but the ship had proven its worth. It had defied those who sought to destroy it, exposed corruption, and united humanity against overwhelming odds. Its story was far from over, and as the crew looked to the stars, they knew one thing for certain. The Odyssey would continue to sail, no matter what challenges lay ahead. End of Part 5.